Okay, so we left off with here determining how egg and sperm cells were different. They each have 23 chromosomes, but the 23rd pair, the sperm cell, since the 23rd pair of chromosomes is a sex chromosomes, the males have an X or a Y. Remember, they can choose and give the X or the Y to their kids. And so therefore males determine the gender of the child. So let's look at the behavior of these chromosome sets. A set is a set of 23, so we have two sets. And we look at the humans, we're going to focus on humans. So at sexual maturity, the ovaries and testes produce haploid gametes, so it's the 23 chromosomes, egg and sperm. Gametes are the only type of human cells produced by meiosis rather than mitosis. We produce every other cell by mitosis. Meiosis results in one set of chromosomes in each gamete. So one set means numbers 1 through 23, right? So then what is the fusing of gametes? What do we call that? It starts with the F. Fertilization. The fusing of gametes restores the diploid condition, forming a, what do we call it when sperm fertilizes egg? We get a zygote. And the zygote develops into an adult. I'm going to put here by dividing by mitosis. So, if we look here at this chart here, or this diagram here, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to look at two processes where meiosis occurs and where fertilization occurs. And we're going to divide this up here, and we're going to say for the human life cycle, this is the anything above this line is haploid, anything below the cells are diploid. Haploid, one set of chromosomes, diploid, two sets of chromosomes, 2N. So if we look here, here's your male and female. They're highlighting the ovaries and testes because those are where the cells are that are going to go through meiosis. So they go through meiosis, reducing the chromosome number. So the females make the egg. Ovum is another way to say egg. Ova is plural, so this is the singular form. The ovum is N, so it has N is 23, so it's chromosomes 1 through 23. And our haploid, and the sperm is the same, 1 through 23. And then that's the only cells in our life cycle that are haploid, the egg and the sperm cell. So when the sperm fertilizes the egg, that process is fertilization. We get a diploid zygote. It has two of every kind of chromosome. It divides by mitosis and goes through development, and we end up with a human. And so therefore that is our life cycle. Let's turn the page. Now, not every organism has a life cycle exactly like ours. So there are other variations of life cycles. So the alternation of meiosis and fertilization is common to all organisms that reproduce sexually. So that means we have a mixture of DNA from two parents. The three main types of sexual life cycles differ in their timing of meiosis and when fertilization occurs. In animals, meiosis produces gametes, so that's like we just looked at, and undergo no further cell division before fertilization. So therefore the egg and the sperm, once they're made, don't divide anymore. Sperm fertilizes egg, you get a baby. Gametes are the only haploid cells in animals. Gametes fuse to form the diploid zygote that divides by mitosis to develop into multicellular organism. So this right here is the same as humans. So right here, this life cycle, when we look at this is the same as humans and animals, where we're going back to that previous picture here. So this was the diploid and haploid and diploid. Here's your multicellular diploid organism, so this would be the human. All of our cells are 2N, except the cells in the ovaries and testes, they go through meiosis and produce our gametes, which are just N, half the number of chromosomes. The gametes fertilize, you get a zygote that divides by mitosis, and you get a diploid multicellular organism again. Not all organisms do it quite like this. So plants and some algae are a little bit different, and fungi are a little bit different. The differences you don't need to know, so we don't need to go into depth about the differences, just that this, you do need to know the animal life cycle, and that this is humans, and that other organisms have some variation of that. All right, so plants and fungi have some variation of that. The nitty-gritty of that is something we don't have to cover. So although the organisms in part B and C have slightly different life cycles than animals, there are some similarities. In all three, they reduce the chromosome number, so chromosome halving is reducing the chromosome number, and then they also double it. They replicate their chromosomes in order to get genetic variation. So this you do need to understand, but just the differences you don't really need to know for this class. All right, so meiosis, the process is the process of reducing that chromosome number. So like mitosis, meiosis is preceded by the replication of chromosomes. Meiosis takes place in two sets of cell division. They're called meiosis 1 and meiosis 2, and I had gone over that with you a little bit on that one drawing on the back of the mitosis drawing, the big drawing sheet that we did. The two cell divisions result in how many cells? Do you remember how many cells at the end of meiosis? There are 4 daughter cells rather than the 2 daughter cells in mitosis. But each daughter cell doesn't have the same number of chromosomes as the original. They have only half as many chromosomes as the parent cells. So let's look at these two parts of meiosis, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. So in the first cell division, meiosis 1, homologous chromosomes separate. That's what the purpose of them is. And so, well, if we look at, let's go back over here to this picture right here. If we look at homologous chromosomes, and so I started to write on this already. The homologous pair of chromosomes, you have, let's color these here. So you have one pair. So remember, real life, we'd have 2 pairs. So this is one pair. And so then they replicate during the S phase of interphase. So remember this side, as we draw it here, is an exact copy of this side. And this side is an exact copy of this side. All right, so therefore, and so meiosis 1, this is called meiosis 1 right here, where they separate. So what they're not showing you here is that there are, let's get a different color here, there are spindle fibers that attach, much like we've talked about before with mitosis. The spindles pull, instead of the chromatids apart, they're pulling the pairs apart. So therefore you have one of each kind. So if this is a pair chromosome number 1 on your karyotype, this is the replicated chromosome number 1. All right, so this is the replicated chromosomes. And then meiosis 1 separates the homologous chromosomes. These are homologous, and so they separate them. All right, so that's meiosis 1, and then meiosis 2, what happens is the chromatids separate. So here we have spindle. In this case here, one from each side attaches to the centromere of the same chromosome, and what that's going to do is pull the chromatids apart. So the sister chromatids are going to pull apart and eventually end up in opposite cells, and that is the same thing here. That is called meiosis 2. And so that is the second cell division. So we would say here we have half the number of chromosomes here, but they're replicated chromosomes. So for humans, at the very beginning, we have 23 pieces of chromatin. 46 pieces of chromatin. Whoops. All right, those are going to replicate, all right, so then, and condense into chromosomes. And so here, by the time they split, we would say that humans would have 23 replicated chromosomes right here. Just abbreviate C-somes for chromosomes. And then here we also have 23, we'd say single chromosomes or non-replicated chromosomes. And then eventually will unravel and become 23 pieces of chromatin. All right, and so that's meiosis 1, separating homologous chromosomes. So in the first cell division, homologous chromosomes separate. Then meiosis 1 results in how many haploid daughter cells at the end of meiosis 1? 2. 2 daughter cells. And it says with blank chromosomes. And how do we say that? They are replicated chromosomes. So they still are consisting of 2 sister chromatids with replicated chromosome. In the second cell division, meiosis 2, what separates? What are these called? These guys separate into 2 different cells. These are sister chromatids. Separate. And so therefore meiosis 2 results in 4 haploid daughter cells with unreplicated chromosomes. This is the single chromosomes. Remember I said that these are unreplicated. We can write that. That's what that means. And so literally when we look at the numbers here, this is 1 chromosome number 1, and so you'd have 1 of every kind. So this would look like, as I drew before, 1 chromosome number 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 22, and then X or a Y, depending upon females. The eggs these will all have X's on males. So sperm, half will have an X, half will have a Y. All right, and so that's what we mean by 1 of every kind. So they're no longer in pairs. There's no pairs in that. So meiosis 1 is preceded by, what preps this? What preps for meiosis? We look up here, interphase. So it's preceded by interphase, in which chromosomes are replicated to form sister chromatids. The sister chromatids are genetically identical and joined at the centromere. So that's that part right here. All right, this side is an exact copy of this side connected at the centromere. The centrosome replicates, forming 2 centrosomes, getting ready for meiosis. And then meiosis 1 will occur in 4 phases. But when we look at the nitty-gritty of this, I'm going to hold off to another video. So this video is short today.